You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com.
Are you a diehard comic book collector?
Or maybe a lapsed fan?
Maybe even someone who has never picked up a comic book in their life. Hi, I'm Remso Martinez.
And I'm Mark Claire. Every single Wednesday at the Second Print Comics podcast, Remso and I take a deep dive into the storylines, character arcs, moments, and events that made us the fans we are today.
Tune in every Wednesday for new episodes available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and wherever else podcasts are available.
Check out more from the Second Print Comics podcast at secondprintcomics.com.
Prepare yourself. You're on the run with Remso W. Martinez.
All right, Anthony, I have to just understand the complete situation because this book blew my mind and had me thinking, oh, God, this is really freaking cool. I have wanted to move, or at least own, a tiny house for at least 3 years ever since I saw one. But you don't not only own a tiny house, but you have created a mobile tiny house. And you are traveling across the country in your mobile tiny house, talking to liberty activists state to state.
Yeah,
that's freaking awesome.
We're having a blast with it, and it helps me accomplish a lot as far as what our focus is, which is liberty. So it's really kind of a means to an ends. But it's a lifestyle as well. It's about financial freedom. It's about encouraging people to think outside the box. Not that everybody needs to live in a tiny house, but to start considering how what the next generation can look like when it comes to housing and dealing with the economics situations that we're facing here, where our dollar goes a lot less for a lot. It doesn't go as far as it used to. And for us, for our family living in this tiny house, which is essentially a remodeled travel trailer. It looks like a travel trailer on the outside, but it's absolutely a home on the inside. My wife's actually in the kitchen right now cooking breakfast for us. But it's really fun. It's a project that we put a lot of love and care into. We had a lot of people help us, kind of remodel the thing. And we meet so many people on the road as we travel. And, right now we're heading all the way from Washington State all the way to Florida, kind of embarked on a freedom tour, so to speak. And it's been really fun for us.
That's outstanding. Right. Like I think in the middle of the pandemic, I was one of those people. I was locked in my house. I had not left my own town in probably like 6 months at that point. And this is when I really started looking at the idea of, okay, like, what do I want to do when I travel? What do I want to do with my life? Because I never want to be in a situation where I'm just completely stuck in one place. And that's how I started learning about like RV living and, the whole tiny house movement. But I think the big thing right now is it wasn't just about escaping. It's about trying to find a lifestyle where you don't have to worry about where you're at right now. You can be nomadic. And I think there are pros to that. And I think there are cons to that. But if the past year and a half has taught us anything, it's that we really, really underappreciated our freedom of movement, even within the United States.
Yeah. And we're watching, it potentially get locked down, even further as far as, domestic travel is concerned, or even international travel. So, freedom of movement's, paramount to using our free will and to having it and having the liberty to go where we want, as long as we're not looking to harm anybody. Right. And this has really opened my eyes to a reality that many people are already actually doing this. That was what was strange for me. We started doing the tiny house thing, for a variety of reasons. One of which was, running a campaign and whatnot back in 2020. But when I first started thinking about doing it, it was like, I'm gonna, that's weird, to live in a trailer or whatever. It's like, that's weird. That's not normal. And it's certainly not common per se by today's standards. But as I've been doing it, I've come across, dozens of people that I have great long conversations with that have been doing this for years and years and years. Some people do it in retirement. Some people do it out of necessity because they have no other option. But there's this huge subset of people in the middle that are doing it because they want to, and because it's freed them to live a life that brings them joy when previously they'd felt stuck and unhappy, maybe working the same job, living in the same area, maybe not, struggling to, maybe make ends meet while also getting to do the fun family stuff that you want to do. The middle-class life, it isn't necessarily all roses, right? There's a lot of stress, mortgages, bills, jobs, careers, all that kind of stuff. And I meet so many insightful people that have done the tiny house thing for, a few years or decades even. And it just brings such a joy to their life. It's brought us a huge amount of joy to my life. That's for sure.
When you had this idea and realized this is something that you were serious about, what was it like having that conversation with your family?
Well, my wife is the one that kind of turned me on to all this. Her mom and dad are less crazy about it, as you can imagine, right? They want, grandkids to stay close and, to be able to drive over and see us on a moment's notice. But my wife was really into kind of alternative housing and alternative building, very early in our marriage. And it was at a time when I was still, in a career path that I was kind of, maybe not happy with, but I was comfortable with. And I wanted the 2-story house and white picket fence and, dog and 2.5 kids or whatever. Right. And what we started finding was, even the two of us having good jobs, we weren't, well off per se. But we had what we needed, right? And as we got married and we started shopping around for housing, we realized how expensive it was, right? Out in Washington State, where I'm from, housing's $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, like minimum, right? I mean, you can't hardly get a house for $300,000 out in Washington. But she'd been, watching videos on container ship housing, right? Adobe style housing, earth bags and tiny houses and even yurts and stuff, just kind of fun stuff that you see on YouTube or on Facebook or whatnot. But she got really into it and it's just, like anybody watching and learning and getting interested in it. And then at one point she actually went and did a build on somebody's property where they're just making like a small shed out of earth bags. And so one thing led to the next, and we have some grand visions on what we actually want to do when we stop this nomadic life. But in the meantime, building small, living on less, having just what we need to survive, from a structure to keep, heat and like I said, a kitchen, right? So we can cook and showers. I have my son with me here. The tiny house provides everything that we need. And, I'm so grateful that she has been so passionate about this, because as somebody like myself that wasn't necessarily as interested in it, I'm grateful that she was so passionate, because her passion led me to trust the idea. And now that we're doing it, we feel so empowered, right, to live our life as we see fit. And it's really great.
So was the campaign opportunity one of those moments where it's like, well, we can definitely go and travel, or we could travel with a tiny house, or was the plan to have a mobile tiny home already something, and then campaigning was just, a reason to really go forward with it? What came first?
Well, it was actually, so our long-term plan is to build a homestead And instead of building a tiny house on it, what we actually want to do is build earth bag adobe housing, which has got a lot of thermal mass. It's economically viable in the sense that it's a lot more affordable, and it's environmentally.
We've got those all throughout Arizona. I grew up in a small town near the U.S.-Mexican border called Sierra Vista, and the people that built those sustainable homes. I mean, I'm not super big on solar power, but like solar power was what powered the town. And when you look at how people were able to basically not completely get off the grid, but create these homes that are not only good for their environment, but also good for their bills. I mean, those are some amazing houses.
Yeah. And we're super excited about that, but that's what the long-term plan was. But in the meantime, my family's not quite ready for that step yet. Right. We want to be financially free before we start investing in, properties and things of that nature. Just for us, right. This is the process we've taken. And in the meantime, I wanted to run for office. There are some issues I was really passionate about. And this trailer idea, the tiny house idea, kind of stemmed from just conversations my wife and I would be having as we go camping for the weekend. And anybody that's run for office or even follows politics knows that running for office is expensive. There's way too much money involved in politics. And the race I wanted to run was a statewide race. And I knew that, as a third-party candidate, as a libertarian, that even if I could raise a ton of money, which we did really well there, I would need to be spending as much of it as I could on, marketing, right?
No, that's a six-figure. I mean, that's a six-figure campaign right there.
Yeah, and if you're spending money on hotels, right, which the fancy Republican and Democrat politicians do, they stay in hotels weekend after weekend as their campaign. That just adds up. So the tiny house was kind of a means to the ends for the campaign. It allowed me to cut my cost from what could have easily been a couple $100 a day down to right about $55-$60 a day, including even food and such. So it allowed me to do a lot more on a lot less, and to take that money I had and invest it in advertising and staff and things of that nature. And really, what it let me do is it let me travel to meet people where they're at full time, instead of being a weekend warrior candidate or having to be rich, right? I wanted to find a way to do a true grassroots campaign, and being active in the community and literally going to each county for a couple of weeks at a time allowed me to do multiple events, to do more than just the standard meet and greet, and to actually, immerse myself in a community for a few weeks, right? And just, meet people along the way. So, the tiny house was really a means to the end for the campaign. And then since then, now that I know, like, we're getting closer to buying land, we're not staying in Washington. So we decided to continue traveling, instead of just traveling in Washington State for my campaign, to travel around the country to, share some of the resources I've created and the knowledge that I've obtained from running for office, and to show up to help other liberty causes, right? The people that have helped me, I wanted to give back and to help them, and inspire those that maybe are feeling apathetic. So the tiny house is continuing to really help fuel my effort for liberty. One kind of feeds the other a little bit, but it ultimately helps me spend 100% of my time, focused on fighting for freedom for myself, for my family, for you, and for all of our friends and our families.
How's the money situation been? I mean, I have to assume that you've been at least working remotely during this time, or did you have some other streams of income to help supplement that?
No, that's a great question. So when I decided to run for office in 2019, I kept my job for the first 2 years. I was building my campaign and doing outreach. I started really early, but in the final year of my campaign, I actually quit my job. And I walked away from it. My wife and I put ourselves in a position where I could do that. Money's tight and has been tight for a couple of years. But we have what we need. Post-campaign, I do a little bit of crowdsourcing. My work is essentially I'm a candidate consultant. I teach candidates to how to run more successful campaigns. I help them get from A to Z. Being a libertarian is great. Knowing how to run a campaign is entirely different than having the right value system.
Well, that's an art form right there, because what always separated the people who went on to actually run an effective campaign versus the people that had like that fire in their gut but didn't take the next step is the fact that libertarians obviously don't want to show approval for a broken system, but at the same time, it's like there are things you have to do to get on the ballot. There are things you have to do to make sure that people actually know who you are and that you're running in a way where you're meeting your target audience where they are. And that takes time. And that's not the sexy part that a lot of people think about when they think of campaigning. They think of rallies and TV interviews, but it's the other 99% that keeps the lights on.
Yeah, and it's important. And I'm a firm believer that there's not one right way to do this liberty thing. That's why the project that I'm ultimately on right now and launched back in July it's called Be Free, The Road to Liberty. Our website's theroadtoliberty.com. And what I do is I volunteer for free for candidates and the cause, right? If there's a county chapter or a candidate or somebody that needs help, right? For example, I was out in Minneapolis a few weeks back, and I was helping a candidate who's running, Nate Atkins, who's running for mayor in Minneapolis. He's incredible. He's great. He's out there working hard. Spike Cohen and I showed up and helped him for a couple of days. Right. After that, I went to Illinois and attended their state convention. Now I'm down in Kentucky. We were over in Ohio and did a screening of the movie The Unseen. This is a gentleman that wanted to host a movie screening, but he hadn't ever hosted an event before. So I said, yeah, I'll come out. I'll be a guest speaker at the event. I'll drive a conversation about the lockdowns and what's causing them and how do we stop it from happening again. And I do this, all for free in the voluntary fashion because I want to set a tone for volunteerism and what that can look like. But I do also crowdsource on the side. We sell swag and t-shirts and stickers and stuff with liberty-based messaging on it to help get the word out, right, on these issues and to help put gas in the gas tank. We, like I said earlier, my wife and I, we have what we need for the bare bones, but crowdsourcing on the side helps me earn a little bit of money to help me continue to do this. It's far from profitable, which isn't the goal. The goal is just help spread the liberty movement because I got a 6-year-old. And this is extremely important to me. I didn't quit my job and run for office and decide to dedicate 100% of my time to liberty to watch us get our asses kicked year in and year out, or to watch us, continue to lose freedoms. So I put all of my energy into this. And I'm trying to do it as frugally, as cheaply as possible because I know how few resources this movement has. And my goal is to help amplify our efforts so that we have more resources, that we have more skills. And the tiny house is a great resource for that. It really lets me do a lot more on a lot less. And it makes it so I don't have to make, $4, $5, $6 a month to, pay a mortgage. Ideally, we make a little bit of money so I don't have to stress about, something breaking and which credit card I'm having to put a bill on. But ultimately it's, even since I was a kid, I've always been of the mindset that, the money will come, right? What you ultimately need will eventually be, you'll earn it. You'll provide for it. If you work hard, you keep your head down, you try to do the right thing. And you know what, through my careers, I've made more money, I've made less money, but I've, managed to always, provide for what I need, take care of my family. And, the crowdsourcing, the gifts people give us along the way here over the last, couple of years as I've focused all my time and energy on politics has been a huge blessing. We don't report any of it to taxes. I don't have a W-9, right? I'm essentially a campaign consultant, but because I do it for free, I don't have to report taxes. And because everything I do is crowdsourcing, it's gifts, and it's not that it's tax deductible. It's that because it's a gift, it's not tax reportable as long as it's no more than $10,000 legally per person. So feel free to donate, $9,999, everybody that's listening. And I won't report an ounce of it to taxes, and it'll help me keep teaching candidates how to get, hundreds of thousands of votes, which is what I did out in Washington.
Oh, that's beautiful. And, send me your links so that way I can go ahead and put them in the show notes so people can go ahead and jump on there and, contribute to the cause after they're done listening. But you mentioned something that I had not thought of prior. You mentioned your son. And the thing that really shocked me over the last year and a half, especially when schools started closing down across the country, were the number of conservatives, were the number of freedom-minded independents, were the number of libertarians who complied with every aspect of the lockdowns and still continue to advocate for that, especially when it comes to their children and their school districts. To say that what we have witnessed in the past year and a half has been child abuse on a massive scale is an understatement. And as I looked at what parents were doing, and I don't want to be a backseat quarterback, I don't have children, but this idea of you say one thing when you're watching the news, you go and talk one thing when you're talking with your friends, but when it comes to the real situation of this shit is happening, the message you're sending your child is comply, comply, comply. And by what you've done by incorporating your family into what you're doing in the midst of all of this, that speaks louder than any Twitter warrior or any person anywhere else talking about mass resistance. You have actually just said, you know what? This is my family. We're doing our thing and we're going to do it our way.
I've traveled nonstop through this entire lockdown, and I've talked to people all over the country. When I was between running my campaign and seeing it in Washington and going to reopen rallies as a candidate, and I wouldn't even go and campaign. I literally wouldn't pitch my campaign. I would just go and listen to people. I'd give a speech and tell them I'm sorry that this was happening to them, right? Because I'm seeing, the massive job loss, the income loss, the retirement that people are losing, the businesses that are being lost, right? I was out in Arizona, and, I tell this story because it was so impactful to me. I met a woman at a gas station, and as we're traveling, right, it was on Route 66. I pulled over literally because I just wanted a souvenir. I was actually on my way to meet up with
because
Adam.
Why not?
Right. Yeah. We buy stickers, right? You can only buy so many ashtrays and shot glasses in a tiny house. So we buy stickers, but we're at this gas station, and my wife, the kind soul that she is, she's just, strikes up a conversation with this woman. And my wife has this innate ability to where, or not even ability, where people just literally like tell her their whole life stories, right? They could know her for literally 30 seconds. And by the end of the conversation, they have like just told her more than she ever asked for. Right. And as we're at this gas station, this woman is telling us how she had owned a restaurant down in Tucson, had lost it. They'd only been like a year or so out from retirement. And the plan had been to sell their restaurant to fund the rest of their retirement. By the end of it, they had lost their restaurant, lost their house, and had been forced into living in an RV in their mid-60s. They weren't traveling on vacation as a retired couple. She was working at a gas station, making gas station, burritos instead of, finishing off her twilight years selling, a high-end steak restaurant from Tucson. And she lost everything. And at that, when you see the pain and suffering in people's eyes, and that pretty much everything government does, whether it's regarding the lockdowns or any other thing through our life, that it ultimately almost all of it is hurting somebody. We drew the line in the sand and we said no more. We're not giving into this. We're not complying with any of it. If for no other reason, to encourage other people to do the same thing and to be brave. It's not about, for me, being the leader or being the guy that is, willing to dance alone and stand out, right? What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to inspire that second and third person to join me and join us in non-consent, right? People that would otherwise be fearful, right, of maybe, dancing by themselves, standing alone, being isolated, against the government, and to let them know that, hey, There are other people out there that will help you. If you lose your job because you don't comply, right, we'll help you find a job. We'll send business your direction if you work under the table, right? We'll get you connected with resources. So, and to really just inspire people to be brave in the face of tyranny. I do want to caution this, because you said something that as a parent, as somebody that fights for liberty is important to me. I have opinions on masks. I have opinion on vaccines. I've got opinions on the school system and whatnot. What is very important to me as a parent is to not shame other parents for doing the best they can. All of us parents are literally just trying to figure it out. We're doing the absolute best we can. Most parents are great. Most of us are just trying to make ends meet, doing the best we can with what we know how. And I don't want people to feel shamed for complying under duress. What I want you to do is I want you to feel empowered to start thinking outside the box and say, okay, I'm tired of complying. I feel bad that I complied. I feel bad that I put my kid in a public school and that he had to wear the mask for the last year. I knew it was wrong and I felt like I was forced. I felt like I didn't have a choice, because what government's done, it's put its boot on our neck and it's trapped people, especially right now with Biden's mandates, where they're going to fire tens of millions of people countrywide, maybe more. People feel trapped in the sense that I have a mortgage. I don't know what to do, right? I have to get this vaccine, or I have to send my kid to school. I want you to be encouraged that you don't have to, that you can start looking outside the box, that there are sacrifices that you can make to create liberty in your life in spite of government tyranny. If this is something that you've been struggling with, that, you feel bad about, whatever ounce of compliance, whether it was a little compliance or full compliance you gave in the last 2 years, but you feel bad about it and you want to stop complying, please reach out to me, theroadtoliberty.com. I will do everything I can help you to stop the government from putting its boot on your neck and find ways to work outside of the system to create happiness for your family, regardless of what government's doing.
I've been thinking how I'm going to go ahead and segue into the last half of the show, but I think I found the perfect way. You use the term non-compliance, trying to give yourself more options, trying to say, I saw what this did, I complied, and I feel bad, and I want to do better. One thing that has been a goal for me, especially since I moved here to Wisconsin, and I'm by myself currently, it's been I need to find things outside of work, because everything I do is related to politics. Everything I do, even for fun, is still related to working to some degree. So I wanted to do something that is just for me, that I don't have to share with anyone else. It's just a me thing. And one of those goals that I've had for many years now was I wanted to start training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I'm really lucky, because throughout Milwaukee, there are a ton of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu studios. But one of the things I was looking for when I was looking at schools nearby was this: what did you do during the lockdowns? And if it happens again, what will you do? And some schools that, they went all out. They're like, I closed for a year. Some were like, well, we did some classes and we scattered them out and we social distance. And then one school was just like, we went entirely online. And, I respect anybody that's willing to make a decision, especially when they know that it's not going to be great for them. But the school that I went to, they were basically like, no, we didn't lock down. And then immediately I was like, yeah, I'm coming here. And they're like, listen, man, it's a fact of life. People need this. People will always need this. And if you're worried about COVID or anything else, jiu-jitsu is probably not for you, because you'll get far worse injuries and stuff like that. So, I started coming here, and it's just been one of those things where it's just been like, embrace the journey, embrace the challenge. So when I found out that you're a jiu-jitsu guy as well, immediately I had to ask, as soon as I heard about the whole tiny house thing, brother, when's the next time you're rolling?
Jeez, dude, I've put on some weight since I've been in this tiny house, but I'm gonna blame politics for it. It's not my fault. It's politics.
How did you first get into jiu-jitsu?
I went through a bad breakup, and I wanted to change my life and to find a hobby. I needed something new to do. I was quitting smoking and I wanted to find a way to be healthy. And I've been watching UFC and MMA and all that kind of stuff. And I remember watching the grappling aspect and just seeing the vast skill difference between somebody that knew how to grapple with the rest of their fighting versus somebody that had to fight but didn't know how to grapple with it. And it was just, it was amazing to me. And I honestly, I thought it was really beautiful, the transitions, the way like somebody that was super technical could really just own somebody and beat them up, choke them out, or whatever. And so I started training, and now I'm a coach at times. Before I was on my campaign, I was a coach at a local academy, a Gracie Academy out in Washington. And, I've had the pleasure of training with, Hoist Gracie and Henner Gracie and the Mendez brothers and, all over the years. And, the thing that jiu-jitsu's taught me most importantly is perseverance. And knowing that even when you lose, that you can win, right? I've lost so many matches, this, you tap out at practice, right? You're going up against somebody bigger and stronger than you, more technical, more skilled, more experienced. And you get used to losing and being okay with it, but coming back and fighting harder, fighting smarter, and that's impacted my life in pretty much every area of my life, but specifically with, politics and stuff. It's, it's kind of indicative of, what we do, the liberty lovers, right? We're the small person in the battle with the bully. And, while we might get beat up and we might lose, the more skilled we get, the more trained we get, the better, the more experience we have, the better we can fight, and we can start winning some battles, winning some matches, so to speak. And, my passion is jiu-jitsu. What I ultimately want to do is own a jiu-jitsu academy someday.
That'd be lit.
But the COVID lockdowns, kind of shook me from that respect. I've been working on business plans for a school for a few years, knowing that I'm not quite ready yet, but either skill wise or teaching wise or financially. But, as a libertarian, right, we often talk about zoning laws and business licensing and regulations. And then in 2020 and 2019, we saw that stuff actually, come to fruition, to where the government used, labor and industries and the Department of Health and business licensing to shut gyms down. And I have so many friends that lost, basically, just lost every dime they had, right? Just struggled to stay alive because they couldn't get people to come in. And, it scares me as a potential future business owner, right? What if this happens again? Right. And if I'm going to invest time and energy and money in starting a school, what would I do to protect myself? Right. The government's showing its cards. We know what they're capable of. Okay. So you complied this time. All right. That's fine. What are we going to do to make sure that we never have to comply again? Right. And that's where I want to help, jiu-jitsu schools realize it's like, hey, you don't need to get their business license. You don't need their permission to teach. Right? You don't need permission to share your knowledge, what's in your mind. You don't need permission to use your body to create an income for yourself and to teach others how to defend themselves. Right. And one of the first steps here is, I believe, we need to start getting small business, especially mom to pop shops, to one, bind together and collectively say that, hey, we're not going to comply, because it's a lot harder to pick off, 50 businesses in a community than it is one. But also we need to start removing their levers of power. And jiu-jitsu is all about alavanca. It's all about leverage.
Yes.
Right. We need to use our jiu-jitsu mindset if we're gym owners, if we're practitioners, and we need to remove the levers of power over our lives. So for me, jiu-jitsu, tiny house, liberty, teaching, coaching, it's all kind of one big life mentality that I have that has been cultivated through pain and suffering, self-imposed in many cases. But the true heart behind it is just to empower myself, empower my family, create liberty for ourselves, learn and to grow, look internally as often as possible, because anybody that's been in a jiu-jitsu match is like, it's when you get choked out, it's not because the other guy did the move perfectly. It's because you fucked up.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to be really self-respective and be like, all right, why did I lose? And it takes a lot of self-ownership. Right. And so these things are all tied into each other. And I just, I appreciate the chance here to talk to you today, because it really, I don't get to talk jiu-jitsu a lot and really show why I think jiu-jitsu and liberty go hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for me, I had done martial arts. I did Taekwondo as a kid. I had to start from a white belt twice because I moved so often. I got up to brown belt each time. And then you do some Army combatives. I did some combatives in the Army. But the big thing for me, it was, other than like the health reasons and everything else, I really wanted to start doing martial arts again during the pandemic because I felt powerless. Like it was for like many people, it was a very incredibly dark time in my life, especially if a lot of other things that were going on in 2020 through early 2021. And even though I've only been doing jiu-jitsu for a couple months now, I don't even have a stripe on my white belt yet. I go 3-4 days a week. I like literally in a couple hours, I have a private lesson with my coach because my shrimping is shit. And I need to stop getting put on my stomach when I screw up and pull guard immediately. But I've won three matches the entire time. And, for every match I win, I get submitted or choked out like 100 times. But the one thing I've loved about this is that, one, I think jiu-jitsu, unlike other martial art forms, like if there's a superpower on earth, it's this. Because there have been little scrawny, bony kids who I've rolled against who have been able to take me and larger guys down. And it's incredible to watch. And I've actually felt like I have some control for once. I have felt more self-empowered through this. And all my friends look at me with my black eyes and bruises and they think, what the hell is wrong with you? And I'm like, you don't understand. It's that part of you that you don't get in any other way. There's something about having some dude try and simulate murder on you during a class that really puts a lot of things in perspective. And in just the short time I've been doing it, like going balls to the walls right now, jiu-jitsu is so freaking difficult. It has made other things in my life easier to deal with.
Yeah.
And with all this, it's just been amazing.
I feel so much healthier mentally when I do jiu-jitsu. I'm more patient. I'm more kind. And it's because I don't know. It's just, it just brings that out of me. I think jiu-jitsu is absolutely beautiful. I love the flow of jiu-jitsu. I love the cooperative partnering, and streaming moves together. But the thing I really love about jiu-jitsu is the empowerment aspect. I think that women and children should be learning jiu-jitsu, especially women. The idea behind jiu-jitsu is that it can take a smaller, less physically powerful or athletic person and equalize them or make them able to defeat a larger, stronger opponent. And, in a lot of cases, women get assaulted, and I'm going to take this, a little serious for a second. There's so much domestic violence in this world, and worse, and women feel the brunt of it, we all watched the Me Too stuff over the last couple of years, and we watched the progressives virtue signal on it and, talk about how it's wrong and stuff. And I agree. Right. That men need to step up and stop hurting women, and other good men need to stop bad men from doing it. And that's why I enjoy teaching women and children jiu-jitsu, because it can empower them to protect themselves. And, I'm a Second Amendment guy. I like the firearms, and, I think that that's important. But in a lot of cases, somebody that's being abused is being abused by somebody they know. In a situation where all of a sudden it becomes unsafe, and having a firearm is not always going to be an option. You are always going to have your body with you in a fight. And if a man tries to attack a woman to sexually assault her or whatnot, jiu-jitsu can save a woman's life. Before that, though, one of the things about jiu-jitsu is it stops you from becoming a victim, I think. So it's not even that you need to learn the jiu-jitsu. to defend yourself. It's that through the process of learning jiu-jitsu, you learn how to not become a victim. It teaches you how to be more confident, how to be more assertive. And that doesn't mean a bold, assertive woman still can't be assaulted. Don't get me wrong. I don't want this to get taken out of context.
There's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of conflict avoidance and conflict resolution in jiu-jitsu, because the one thing that I think a lot of martial arts fail at is reminding people that at the end of the day, this is self-defense. And the best way to protect yourself is to de-escalate the situation before it even has to get violent.
Well, and frankly, even just simple distance management, right? No, understanding what, being too close is or being too far away is. And, if some women try to, anyways, we don't need to get into a whole technical thing about, how jiu-jitsu is a great resource there. But for me, it's something that I try to use to teach people how to be empowered, how to take control over their lives, how to defend themselves against violence. And it's been an incredible thing in my life. Frankly, it's been one of the single best things that happened to me. It's definitely top 5 things, right? My jiu-jitsu, my wife, my son, not in that order, as my wife is standing next to me here. But right. It's, it's, and learning what liberty was. I mean, those are some of, and finding God. Right. Those are my 5 top things that changed my life. And I hope to share jiu-jitsu with as many people as possible. I think our law enforcement needs jiu-jitsu, right? When we talk police reform, what's happening right now in states like New York, where they're banning things like chokehold, which we all saw with Eric Garner and George Floyd, how, bad cops do bad things and they made chokeholds look bad. We as libertarians know it's not the gun that pulls the trigger. It's the bad guy that pulls the trigger. And a chokehold and jiu-jitsu and grappling is absolutely a resource that we should be teaching women and children. But
there was a video I saw on the Gracie Breakdown YouTube channel where Henner Gracie was talking to a student from another Gracie Academy. And this guy, I think he was in North Carolina, he was driving by a cop, and this cop had this dude on his stomach, but the dude was resisting and the cop was about to lose him. So what the guy did was he ran out and actually use some of his basic skills to, submit the guy, so that way the cop could go ahead and handcuff him. So the news went ahead and said, look, this guy saves cop from criminal resisting. And Henner Gracie pointed out something incredible in that video. He's like, yeah, I saw you help the cop, but you also helped that person. And here's the reason why I'm saying it. Because if that person had been able to get out, it would have escalated into a tasing, or worse, it could have escalated into a discharge from his firearm. So without him really realizing it, you may have potentially saved him from incredible grave injury or death. And I mean, that itself is the fact that you didn't just help one person, you helped 2 people.
Yep, absolutely. And, I've trained with police officers, and they don't know how to grapple. I mean, you give yourself another 2-3 months there and you go find a cop that's never trained before. Even at 2 or 3 months of jiu-jitsu, you're going to beat that cop. So anybody that's got an ounce of athletic ability or any kind of physical training could very easily, overpower any average cop. That doesn't mean every cop, right? There are some cops that are more athletic and whatnot, but all that does is it puts the criminal at risk. It puts the potential criminal, right? Because I believe in, trial, right. Before, right? I don't, but we want the good guys and the bad guys to all make it to where they're supposed to be as safely as possible, right? And we want to be able to give justice a chance. And when people inherently, even a bad guy, does something and wants to resist because let's be honest, who wants to go to jail, right? We want to be able to arrest them as peacefully as possible. And taking away tools like grappling is the last way to keep, people safe in the hands of the police, right? If somebody knows how to properly apply a chokehold, you also know when to release it and how to apply the right amount of pressure. You know how to practice weapon retention so that if they go for your gun, they don't actually get it, which means you're less likely to billy club them or to tase them or to shoot them, right? Jiu-jitsu can save cops' lives. It can save lives of innocent people. And it really is something that I hope to share with as many people as possible. And, Gracie Academy, Henner Gracie does a great job of that.
Well, Anthony, I have had such a blast this morning. We covered so much, but everything goes back to self-empowerment, understanding that road to freedom, whether people are taking it literally like yourself or whether they're beginning to go on that journey of self-exploration. Thank you so much for your time today. If people want to go ahead and learn more about what you're doing, get some swag, support everything that you're doing with your family right now, how could they do so?
Yeah, the roadtoliberty.com has a gift button and a store and stuff, but also on the website, there's forums there. There's forums there to talk about working outside the system. There's forums on there to talk about running for office so you can have the resources that you need. The website, theroadtoliberty.com, is about helping the greater overall liberty movement. It's not just about helping me and what I'm doing. It's about how I can help you and what you're doing, because I think together we can see not incremental change, but we can see exponential gains in liberty. And if we don't draw the line now and work together to do this, we're probably not going to have a peaceful revolution. I pray that doesn't, that we are able to have that peaceful revolution. So visit theroadtoliberty.com, donate, chat with me, join a conversation, and let's help each other.
Awesome, brother. I appreciate you.
All right. Take care, man.